So this video is going to walk you through how to use the SoStocked DIY or do-it-yourself inventory spreadsheet. Now, everything in this spreadsheet has been built upon the same ideal that we have used and the same strategies that we have used in calculating the inventory on our own software. So you will see that we have a couple of different methods for calculating velocity. There are a lot of things that we can add into it, such as being able to factor out stockouts, factor out sales spikes, add additional sales growth, add things such as lightning deals, future seasonal sales spikes, calculate any incoming shipments, any inventory in your warehouse, and then be able to come up with a total order that is needed, be able to come up with something, an item that needs to be transferred right from your warehouse. And so all of that is possible on our SoStocked software. A lot of these different tools that we've incorporated into our software, I have worked to incorporate into this spreadsheet that I've created. Now, the spreadsheet is best utilized by those who have a low number of SKUs. So the low number of SKUs will allow you to, the low number of SKUs that you have, it will allow you to actually work your way through calculating your inventory needs. As you increase your number of SKUs, it gets a lot more time consuming. The margin for error can go up because you're doing so many different items. So that's one thing that you will need to pay attention to is there is a bit of a user error that increases significantly when you're using a spreadsheet. So I recommend, as your business scales up, scaling over into the SoStocked software is much advisable, but we've built this out for you to be able to control and manage your inventory as you scale your business up. So you'll see that we offer the ability to calculate 10 different ASINs, right? 10 different SKUs, 10 different ASINs, and there are various ways of calculating velocity. So I'm kind of going to walk you through the various different tools and the functionality within the spreadsheet, and I also have an instruction list to show you how to set up the spreadsheet for your needs. All of the pink areas are those things that are used in the initial setup of your brand. And then all of the items in yellow are formulas. You definitely do not want to change those formulas because changing those formulas is going to have an impact negatively, most likely, on generally your entire forecast recommendation. Will throw it off. So don't touch anything in the yellow. Everything in the white, those are data points that you should be entering in from your actual Amazon data. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through a couple of the ways that we calculate velocity, and then I'm going to show you the sales spikes and stockouts, and how tracking sales spikes and stockouts will help you to better calculate your inventory needs. It's very important. A lot of the time when you get stockouts or sales spikes, some of the time it's because the data that you put into your calculation is wrong, because maybe you had a sales spike, a lightning deal that you're not going to have in the future, and that increased your sales significantly higher than what was normal, so it increased the amount of inventory that you thought you had to order. Or a stock out, if you were out of stock for 10 of the last 30 days, that average is going to be completely thrown off. And so you need to figure out what the true average would have been if you had been in stock the entire time. So being able to track and calculate your sales spikes and your stock outs is extremely vital. And it's what our SoStocked software was partially designed for. That was a big part of why we designed it. And so when building out the DIY spreadsheet, we wanted to make it very different in that we included that as well. Most other spreadsheets don't really do a great job at doing that, and that's why you get a lot of errors. So there are a couple of different ways that you can calculate your velocity, right? We have generally three different ways, right? We're adding this third way of calculating, but I will kind of walk you through the three different ways. So we have averages. You have 180-day, 90-day, 60-day, 30-day, 15-day, 7-day, and 2-day averages. So you'll be plugging these averages in, right? You plug in your averages, and then you use the checkbox to determine what averages you will be using. So, for example, if we wanted to use a 7-day, a 2-day, and a 15-day, as you can see, when we check this box, the number appears in here. When we uncheck it, it disappears. So every time you check a box, you'll see the number appear, and that'll show you that it's being factored into your averages, right? So if we look over here, we will see our average velocity, and then we're going to see our adjusted velocity. Now there's this adjusted velocity occurs when we add in our growth, right? So if we wanted to go fairly aggressive with one of our products and we wanted to do some sponsored ads and we wanted to increase our sales by 10%, we could add 10 right here, and it's going to increase that average velocity by 10%. Now we call it an adjusted velocity. Now if we have sales that are off Amazon and are not calculated into our Amazon sales, we can add that here too. So you'll see this here, this 40 unit per day velocity, and then you're going to see that when we add, if you look over here, this matches 40% or 40 units and 40 units. Now if we add 10, it's going to increase our daily velocity by 10. If we sell 10 units per day, say on our Shopify account, we can add that here. So that's how that works, and that's how your adjusted velocity is developed. So that's just one way to do it, right? Now, there are a couple of other ways to calculate velocity. If you just wanted to do a manual velocity, you can use, this is called a past sales override, and I'm going to show you how you can use past sales to calculate this, but you can also do a manual velocity. So the manual velocity, say you wanted to calculate, if you didn't know how much, you didn't have any date on the product, you were going to be launching it brand new, you can do a calculation. You can say, okay, I think I'm going to sell 50 units a day. You put 50 here, and then you put a date, right? Let's say, for example, the 1st of December, and then we put one day after, the 2nd of December. This gives us the number of days, one day. We want to make it say one day in here so that our average daily velocity is 50, because we take this and we divide it by 1, or we take this number and we divide it by 1 and it becomes 50. So this then becomes our average daily velocity. However, there's one more step to determining the average velocity. This is the number that everything else is based on, this adjusted plus MCF, which is multi-channel fulfillment daily velocity. This is the velocity that's being used. So we need to check this box to have this number be replaced by this number. So checking this box is going to do that. See, it turns true, and then we go to 50 units a day. So checking and unchecking that will adjust that. Now the same is true of past sales. So say we want to do a Christmas order. We're going to order for Christmas. What you'll want to do is you'll want to pull the sales period that you're going to be calculating for. So say you want to do your Christmas order. Say you start, you know that you want the order to cover from the beginning of October to the end of December. What we would do is we would change this to 10, 1, this would probably be 19, 10, 1, 19, and 12, 31, 19. 91 days. We want to cover 91 days, and then we pull our sales from last year, right? And we pull 6,000 units, right? Here is the one issue with this is that you will have to remove your stockouts. The stockout calculation has not been entered into here. So the better way to go about it is to use this calculation or to go through and cherry pick. When you use the SoStocked system, right? When you use the SoStock system, you will be able to pull out 2 years worth of stockouts and sales spikes. When you're using this past sales override, that's where it gets into having not tracked last year's sales. So if you did not track last year's sales, you're tracking kind of moving forward, but having not tracked last year's sale, that gets into just a warning of inaccuracies. So if you are able to go through and figure out which days had stockouts, which days had sales spikes, you can potentially use one of these fields to do the calculating for you to determine how many of those days actually had stockouts or sales spikes. Just be aware that the number and the data that you put in here, if it has sales spikes and stockouts, can be fallible. But what you're going to see when you plug this information in there is you're going to see the number of days, and then you're going to actually get the average velocity. So it's the same thing as we did here, only we're calculating the average velocity, the daily velocity average for this period of time. And then, of course, you can't forget to turn it on, and then you see that it replaced the velocity from over here, right? And it replaced it with this number 66. Okay, so that is how you can use the tool to calculate your velocity, and your velocity is what everything else is based off of. But now I wanted to jump into the sales spikes and stockouts. So you have your sales spikes and you have your stockouts. And now, like everything we do, it's based on these 2-day, 7-day, 15-day, 30-day, and so on, these averages. So what you're going to start doing is you're going to start noting your your spike days. So you notice as you're going along in your days that you have a particular spike day, and you go, this was a great day. I don't think it's going to happen again. I want to make sure to come into my software, and I'm going to log this date. And so you log the date and you log the number of units. Good rule of thumb is anything 150% of your average sales. So if you're used to selling 100 units a day and you sell 150 or more, that you could consider a sales spike. So you plug in all of your sales spikes and you plug in the dates that they occurred, and what the software is going to do is identify, it's going to see if it's an expired spike, meaning that it occurred before the earlier than 180 days. So all of these are expired because they occurred earlier than 180 days. We can see that 180 days extends to 12/20. And you'll see that every day this data is going to update because we have a formula in here that is telling us to look at yesterday's date. So as you plug these in, you're going to see that what showed up in the 15-day may eventually be removed from the last 15 days, but will still be in the 30 days. So we can see that more and more we have specific days that are being factored as that are essentially being factored out of your velocities, right? And so all of these numbers, so you can see, for example, this particular day, we have a 5 days with sales spikes, and we have 617 units that were considered sales spikes. What is going to happen over here, and this one, for example, is in the 30-day. In your past 30 days, what's going to happen is this amount of inventory, let's go to 30 days, our 30-day average. So we plug in our 30 days worth of sales. Now, it's subtracting from this 1,800 sales, it's subtracting the 617 units to give you a more accurate version of what occurred. So but it's not only subtracting the number of units, it's also subtracting the number of days so that it can give you an accurate representation of your true average for that product. It's factoring in stockouts as well, and I will jump over and talk about that also. So you can see everything happening is automatic. All you have to do is enter the date and the units in sales spikes. Now we'll jump over to the stockout log. Now the stockout log, you enter the start date and you enter the end date. So what I'm interested in having you do is enter the day that you stocked out, the day that you ran out of stock, right? And you zeroed out, and then the day that you came back in stock. So we'll see how long each of those stockout days are, right? So, and the accuracy of this will be a little bit off, because if you have a day where you did 20 units before you stocked out, and then you came back in stock and you did another 15, you'll have a slight variation. It'll be very close. It won't be as close as in the software, because in the software you can actually eliminate those full days, but it'll be very close. So you can see it's patterned in the same way. We give you the number of stockout days in the period. So in 30 days, this product, for example, stocked out for 12 days in the past 30 days. And so we have the adjusted number of days as 18 days. Instead of 30 days, it's 18 days. So what we do in the inventory calculator is we take 18 days and we take as well, we reduce by another, say, however many spike days there are. So say, 18 days and 5 days, right? And we do that calculation and we remove all those days, and that way we can more accurately calculate a velocity, because we are shortening the number of days that you were actually in stock. All right, now moving into, let's see. Okay, so you're going to enter all of your information here. You have your lead time, you have your transfer time, you have the total target max days of stock. Total target max days of stock is the amount of inventory you want to be holding when your inventory lands. So if you want 60 days worth of inventory, by the time your 60-day lead time ends, you have to have 60 days worth of inventory. So that's basically the landed amount, all right? FBA target max days of stock is how many days worth of stock do you want actually at FBA. Now, if you don't have a warehouse, these two numbers are going to be the same. This is going to inform your orders. This is going to be informing your transfers. And you won't have any transfer recommendations if you don't have any warehouse inventory. Okay, so you've figured out what you want to be using as your calculation. And now we get into some of the planning. So I'm very much a firm believer that in order to truly get a picture of your inventory needs, you need to add your marketing plan into the calculation. I don't know how many people I have talked to who've had to cancel a lightning deal or who've run into a stock out. They've run a lot of sponsored ads and they've run themselves right into a stock out, which is just wasteful, because you could have sold that inventory at full price and now you're taking a discount because you're paying for ads and then you're stocking out. Additionally, things like you plan for Valentine's Day, but you didn't plan for Mother's Day or Father's Day. You have a Mother's Day sale on a whim, and then you run yourself into a stock out. So doing this planning in advance is very important towards actually being able to calculate your true inventory needs, so that you're actually growing your business rather than coping or flatlining your statistics. So you have here being able to add lightning deals, right? You can also add, say, an email sales campaign can go here, but the amount of units that you think that you're going to need for that particular deal, right? So this section you can use to calculate lightning deals for each product. And each of these calculations, these number of units get added to the entire order recommendation. Same thing for seasonality. Here's seasonality, start date and end date. You'll see that whatever I put here will change this number. So if I change this number changes. Now that's the total number of days that we want to have a seasonality spike. And then we say that our sales are going to go up by 50%. So this is going to calculate what our velocity is and increase it by 50%. If we increased it by 100%, we would see that this number increases. And so this amount is going to be also added to your recommendation so that you can be sure to have enough units for that period of time. Now, I don't recommend you using the seasonal override, right? We talked about here, this past sales override. Using the past sales override and then also using the seasonality, you have to be careful with that so that you're not doubling up on your sales. Because if you're pulling past sales and then you're also adding a seasonal increase, those numbers can get very large and the velocity would get kind of over bloated by too much duplicate data. Okay, now, so there's a couple of different places you can put seasonality. Now here's where you enter your FBA inventory, your FBA receiving. You minus out the customer orders. This is all information that can be pulled from Amazon, and you can go to the instructions to find out exactly where to do that. This is your buffer stock days. How many days worth of stock do you want to have in place at, all the time? So you don't want to run your inventory on Amazon to 0. You may want to have 14 days worth of stock. So you want that by the time your transfer arrives to Amazon and is available for sale, you still have, say, 14 days worth of stock rather than 0. So you're going to be told by the software to ship early enough so that that is the case. So that in this example, 510 units are still going to be at Amazon by the time your shipment arrives. We have total Amazon, we'd have total FBA inventory. And so that's going to add your FBA inventory, your FBA receiving, and it's going to minus out the customer orders to give you an accurate picture. And then how much inventory do you have outside of your buffer stock? Right, and then if you have a warehouse, you're going to enter your warehouse numbers, and you've got similarly, you've got a warehouse buffer stock, right? It's the similar thing to the FBA buffer stock, only it's a warehouse buffer stock. So this is going to tell you to order early enough so that by the time your order arrives to your warehouse from your supplier, you still have 15 days worth of stock. It's just the little extra cushion so that you can kind of guarantee that you're not going to ever really run out of stock. So those buffer stocks are also very important for preventing stockouts. You have your total inventory, and then we have here your planning in terms of your inbound shipments. Here's your purchase orders. You're going to very simply track your purchase orders. We don't have an order tracker built into this. It's something that you can fairly easily do. I recommend using a software, say Airtable or something like that, but you'll actually have to be manually moving it. Now, if you look at what we have here, we've got an order tracker, which actually is kind of a Kanban view, and it moves things from one phase to the next. So you got an in production, en route, to the prep center, warehouse, and FBA check-in. So that's kind of a more of a way to track your purchase orders. This tool isn't laid out to track your purchase orders, but you can do very modestly when did you place the PO and how much did you order. Warehouse transfers are the same. Don't forget to remove these when they've already landed at the warehouse or at Amazon, right? So your POs are items that you've ordered from your supplier, and your warehouse transfers are the inventory that you've asked your warehouse to send into Amazon. So that's all of your inbound inventory. And then here is your additional lightning deal and seasonality calculation. That's what we talked about over here in your planning section. All of these inventory amounts are being added into this column. And it'll show you your remaining days, right? It's going to show you your remaining days on Amazon. You can see that this is calculating negative. It's just because the formula that I've created, I haven't used actual data, so it's showing up negative. But this is in general, these red boxes are gonna warn you that there's something you should pay attention to. For example, this guy is telling us that we have to reorder. for example, this guy, we've got 60 days of lead time. So if we're seeing that we've got 37 days, negative 37 days of reordering, that means that we're going to run out of stock in 23 days. So we should have ordered a long time ago. Here's 61 days until reordering. So we've got negative 1 day. So what that's telling me is that I should have ordered yesterday, right? You have your reorder dates, and like you can see here, this was 2 days ago. You should have ordered 61 days ago. You should have ordered 52 days ago. So all of these are not generally going to be happening to you, but something like this might occur. So you can see you should have ordered 2 days ago, right? This is the 14th. We're on the 16th. And all of these dates are tied, again, to today's date. This one is for today's date. All right. So let's go back. Yeah, so any of these red items, those are to stand out to let you know that you should take immediate action. And it's going to give you the order quantity based on a lot of different factors, but essentially based on your velocity and on the additional units that you need to place orders for lightning deals and for seasonality, as well as factoring out any orders that you have currently on the way, right? Any inbound orders and any buffer stocks. Your buffer stocks are going to be factored in so that you don't run out of buffer stock. And then here are your transfer dates. They work the exact same way that your reorder dates work. You can see this was should have been ordered yesterday, right? This one 2 days ago. And the total needed for transfer, right? We're going to see the total needed. We're going to see the total that we have available. So this number might not always be the same. So you can see here, we need 3,400 units, but we only have 1,200 units available. So it's never going to tell you to ship more than you have available. It's actually going to show you the shortage. So as we can see, we get warned a couple of different places. We see that we have more transfer need than we actually have available, right? And this 1212 is pulling from our warehouse inventory, 1212. So it's taking all of our warehouse inventory in order to do that, right? And then we see also, we're going to run out, and we also see that we should have ordered earlier. So if we had ordered earlier, we wouldn't be coming up against this problem. So you can kind of see all along the line, we've got an emergency going on. All right, so that is the tool. I hope this is very helpful to you. It's going to take some kind of getting used to. It can be a very sophisticated tool, but it should solve a lot of the issues you might be having with being able to track all of the different variables that go into planning out your inventory. Again, the special tool here is the sales spike log and the stock out log, and how those calculate in and affect the rest of your velocity. I hope that you enjoy this, and feel free to learn more about SoStocked. Inside of the calculator, you can click this button and it will take you to the SoStocked page. And you can see what our current rate is. At the making of this video, we are giving an early access discount. Now that may be expiring very soon. I don't know when you're going to see this video, but I'd say you can jump on while we're in our introductory pricing. Hopefully you made it on time before we increase our pricing. And then any questions you have, you can I guess go to some of our additional videos on YouTube. Reach out to us if you have any questions about the software, and hopefully we'll see you very soon. And hopefully this helps you to stay in stock more. All right, thanks so much. I'm Chelsea Cohen, co-founder of SoStocked.com, and I hope you enjoyed this video.